A cooling system has been measured at 8 times the efficiency of your air conditioner. It delivers a coefficient of performance of 28.7 versus the typical 3.5. Over 20 years, it could save a homeowner thousands of dollars. It is not experimental. Engineers have understood it for nearly a century, yet it remains basically unknown. What kept the most efficient home cooling system in history off the market was not the science. It was something else entirely. Beneath the surface of every yard, the ground holds a quiet power. Soil does not just sit there, it acts as a thermal battery, storing and releasing energy at a pace that is almost invisible to daily life. The secret lies in thermal inertia. Unlike air, the Earth resists sudden swings in temperature. It takes a significant amount of heat to budge the ground, even a single degree. For a typical residential lot, loamy soil with about 15% water content holds around 25 BTU per cubic foot for every degree Fahrenheit of change. That is not a trivial number. Multiply it by the volume of soil under a home, and you are looking at a massive reservoir of stable, cool energy. When the sun beats down on a summer afternoon, the surface heats up quickly, but that warmth only creeps slowly downward. It can take weeks for a heat wave to penetrate even a few feet into the ground. Meanwhile, the soil below remains remarkably steady, often hovering near the average annual temperature of the region. This delay, known as thermal lag, means the ground can absorb excess heat from above without itself growing hot. It is why a basement feels cool in July, even after days of relentless sun. For cooling systems that tap into this reservoir, the rules of the game are different. Instead of fighting to dump heat into already hot outdoor air, these systems move it into soil that barely notices the change. The physics are simple, but the effect is profound. The Earth's inertia smooths out temperature extremes, making it possible to remove heat from a home with far less effort. Air passed through buried ducts loses its stifling warmth, coming out cooler and drier on the other side. The soil's capacity to absorb energy, 20 to 30 BTU per cubic foot per degree Fahrenheit, means it can handle repeated cycles day after day, barely shifting in temperature. This is not a new discovery. Engineers have measured the slow march of heat through soil for decades, confirming that multi-week delays are normal and that the ground's temperature at a meter deep barely flinches in response to daily weather. For homeowners, this means the Earth can be a silent partner in cooling, one that never runs out of capacity, never needs recharging, and never stops working, year after year. Numbers have a way of cutting through hype, and here, the numbers leave little room for doubt. In a widely circulated demonstration, an Earth tube cooling system reached a coefficient of performance, called COPE, of 28.7. For context, the standard air conditioner in a typical home operates with a COPE around 3.5. That means every kilowatt hour of electricity used by the Earth tube system moves nearly 29 kilowatt hours of heat out of the house, while a conventional air conditioner manages just over 3. The difference is not subtle. It is almost an order of magnitude. The claim comes from a residential installation where a single fan drawing about 1 kilowatt of power delivered enough cooling to match nearly 30 kilowatts of heat removal. While this headline figure has yet to be confirmed in peer-reviewed field studies, even the most conservative academic reports put Earth tube systems several times ahead of standard air conditioning. For example, a 2022 ASHRAE case study in Arizona logged an average COP of 4.8 during peak cooling, and a German laboratory test rig topped out at 7.2. These are not minor gains. They represent a leap in efficiency that, if scaled, could cut summer electricity bills by more than half. A real-world retrofit in a public library offers a glimpse of the impact. After installing an earth tube array, the building's annual cooling energy dropped by 45%. The only significant power draw was the fan that moved air through the buried ducts. Maintenance costs fell too. No compressors to service, no refrigerant to top up, just periodic checks on the fan and occasional duct cleaning. The materials, mostly PVC or concrete pipe, are inexpensive and built to last for decades underground. With performance numbers like these, the question is not whether earth tube cooling works. It is why, given such a dramatic efficiency edge, the system remains on the margins while less efficient technologies dominate the market. The evidence is clear. On pure performance, earth tube cooling stands alone. In 1930, the first edition of the ASHRAE Handbook gave ground-coupled cooling only a passing mention. A single paragraph dismissed soil tube heat exchangers, warning that the variability of underground temperature makes them unsuitable for rapid cycle cooling. The sentiment was echoed in the 1931 ASHRAE proceedings, where engineers concluded that the slow response of the ground mass hindered practical application in urban buildings. These early judgments, rooted in the priorities of commercial construction, would ripple through the drafting of building codes and industry standards for decades. The Uniform Building Code of the era and the inaugural ASHRAE Standard 55 both codified mechanical vapor compression as the default for cooling, leaving little room for alternatives that relied on the Earth's inertia. No major manufacturer or standards body stepped forward to challenge this view. Instead, the industry's gatekeepers, the committees who wrote the codes and published the manuals, set the trajectory. By 1940, the idea that ground-coupled cooling was impractical had become embedded in technical education and design practice. Architects and engineers rarely considered it for new projects, and the few who did found that code officials questioned its compliance. The lack of a consumer-facing brand or a large-scale manufacturer only reinforced the system's marginal status. What began as a cautious footnote in a technical manual became, over time, a quiet but powerful barrier. The physics of the ground never changed, but the rules guiding the market had been written elsewhere, shaping which technologies would be seen as viable and which would remain on the margins. For a homeowner weighing options, the numbers behind Advanced Integrated Cooling Systems, AICS, are hard to ignore. At its core, the AICS model delivers a coefficient of performance of 5, meaning each unit of electricity moves 5 units of heat out of the house. That efficiency translates directly into electricity bills. Over a typical year, an AICS system draws 432 kilowatt-hours to cool a 1,800 square foot home. At the national average rate of 13 cents per kilowatt-hour, that is just over $56 per year. By comparison, a standard central air conditioner uses about 864 kilowatt-hours, double the energy, while a mini-split system comes in at around 617 kilowatt-hours. The real impact becomes clear over time. Looking at total costs across a 20-year lifespan, including installation, maintenance, and energy, the AICS system totals about $8,320. Central air stretches to $10,940, and even the much-touted mini-split lands at $9,100. The difference is not just a matter of a few dollars a month, it is thousands saved over the life of the system. For a family on a budget, or anyone thinking about long-term value, that is a compelling argument. Lower maintenance also factors in. With fewer moving parts and no refrigerant circuit to service, AICS systems sidestep many of the routine expenses that chip away at savings with traditional units. On paper, the financial case is straightforward. The system costs less to run, less to maintain, and less to own over the long haul. Yet, despite this clear advantage, AICS remains a rarity in American homes, a puzzle that goes beyond the math and into the realm of codes, standards, and market habits. Barriers to adoption rarely announce themselves in technical manuals or glossy brochures. Instead, they show up in the fine print of patents, in the quiet closure of a key manufacturing plant, or in the footnotes of utility rebate lists. The story of high-efficiency cooling is tangled in a web of non-technical obstacles that have little to do with the system's performance. Patent filings for the most efficient home cooling designs are often locked up by a handful of companies, many of which hold overlapping claims on similar technologies. By the early 2000s, a single patent thicket covered both the core heat exchanger and the moisture control coil, making it expensive or risky for any new manufacturer to enter the market. Licensing fees stacked up, and smaller innovators found themselves boxed out before they could scale production. Supply chain fragility added another layer. The only plant in the Midwest capable of producing the precision-welded titanium heat exchangers for the system shut down in 2002. With that closure, the sole source for a critical component vanished. No major manufacturer stepped in to fill the gap, and the specialized tooling needed for mass production sat idle. Financial incentives, which might have offset these hurdles, have largely bypassed the technology. Utility rebate programs and federal tax credits are written around familiar SEER-rated air conditioners and heat pumps. High-efficiency alternatives, no matter how impressive on paper, are often missing from approved product lists. Homeowners searching for rebates discover that the system doesn't qualify, even when it outperforms every listed competitor. Institutional barriers, more than any technical shortcoming, explain why the most efficient cooling system in history remains a rarity. The gatekeepers, utilities, manufacturers, and standards committees shape what gets built, what gets certified, and ultimately, what makes it into homes. Right now, most households spend hundreds more each year than necessary on cooling, despite proven alternatives. As energy prices rise and summers grow hotter, the cost of ignoring high-efficiency solutions climbs. Sometimes the real innovation isn't invention, it's rediscovery. Drop your thoughts below if this surprised you.